We are Eisenhower Library, as you probably know. My name is Penny, and we have Tracy Clark, mystery author, with us today, and we're really excited about that. I want to give you a little background on her. She is the winner of the Mystery Writers of America Sue Grafton Award. She has been nominated for an Anthony Award for the Best First Novel. She is a board member at large for Sisters in Crime, Chicago, a member of the International Thriller Writers, a board member of the Midwest chapter of Mystery Writers of America. As a child, she loved Nancy Drew, Harriet the Spy, and Amelia Bedelia. And as she grew older, books by Raymond Chandler, Dashiell Hammett, Chester Himes, and Agatha Christie, all of which informed her choice of writing genres. Her Cassandra Raines series is a 4-volume series that she's finished, and she is currently working on a new novel. We will talk a little bit more about that. If you have questions, if you could please put them in either the chat or the Q&A, we'll be monitoring those. If you have something that comes up in as we're talking, go ahead and put it in and we'll try to address it then if it applies to what we're talking about. Otherwise, we'll sort of hold on to them until the end. So we'll just see how that plays out, if that's okay with all of you. So Tracy, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
So here we go. Questions.
All right.
When you started your Cass books, did you know that you were writing a series? Or did that you went along?
I actually did, because that's the kind of stuff that I enjoyed reading. I was reading at that point Kinsey Milhone's series, Sue Grafton's thing. I had read all of Valerie Wilson Wesley's Tamara Hale series. So when I started to actually get serious about writing, I sort of pinpointed my genre. I wanted to write about a PI. I wanted to write about a female PI, an African-American female PI. So I had those as my foundation. So I wanted to sort of take a shot at writing long form, a series, more than one book, following this particular character from case to case to case. So when I first started that first book, I knew kind of in the back of my head that I was sort of going to stretch her out a little bit, not tell everything about her, because I anticipated trying to write a second and a third, which I actually ended up doing while I was waiting for the book deal to sort of come through. So when I got all those rejection letters for that first book, that took me years to finish, I just kept writing. So while I was waiting for that first one to do whatever it was going to do, I just kept perfecting and learning the craft and getting a little better at dialogue and setting and all that wonderful things that you have to sort of put into a book. So by the time it actually sort of came through and that first book sold, I had 2 other manuscripts already ready to go, sort of, with a little revision needed. But I had 3 books to offer them. So they took the first one, they took also the second and the third, and that's how the series started.
I have this as a question a little bit further down, but for the people who are writers in the audience, how did you keep yourself motivated? Because that's hard when when your first one keeps getting rejected, and you kept going and you wrote 2 more books, which is amazing. So do you want to talk about that at all?
Well, it is kind of hard to sort of keep yourself pumped up because it's hard. Writing's hard. So when that first book didn't sell, and it was years not selling, it wasn't like 6 months and then I was on to something else. I mean, I tried for years to sort of get that first book in there. If I ever get any sort of advice or feedback back from the editor that I sent it to, I would sort of take that advice, that feedback, and go again and start again and revise again. But I didn't stop. So I'm pig-headed by nature. So that sort of helped me out a little bit. I don't like people sort of telling me that I can't do something. And that's what I sort of looked at the rejection letter as. That was somebody on the other end saying, you can't do this. This is not for you. Move on, little doggy. And I didn't take it. I knew that I had something. It might have not been in the best form or the best form that I could make it eventually. But I knew that I had something and I wasn't going to stop until I got it. And it just took years. I mean, overnight success, I like to say, that took more than 20 years to sort of get to that golden door, so to speak. But you just sort of have to be tenacious, determined, and you have to learn what you need to learn. I think when I started that first round for that first book, there were things that I did not know, and the editors on the other end were probably right to reject it. But you have to sort of take that constructive criticism, um, sort of internalize it, figure out what part of that is truthful, and you have to really be objective about it. They're looking at it as a business. They're looking at your work as something that they are going to have to market and promote and sell. And you have to give them what they need. There was not much I had to do with Cass herself, but it was just me having to sort of learn how the business operated, what marketing and promotion sort of had to sort of have their way about. And I had to perfect my story. And it took quite a while to do that. And now that I've done it, you would think that everything's free and clear and I don't have anything else to learn. And I don't think we ever get to that. We never get to that point. There's always something you can have to learn. There's always something you can do better. There's always something you can perfect or try to. So it's always a learning experience. And even in 4.5 books in now, I'm still sort of climbing the same mountain. Every book is the same, its own individual mountain, and you have to sort of do it on an individual basis.
So when you're talking about promo and stuff like that, you felt pretty comfortable with Cass and what she was and the idea of what your stories were because you already knew what those stories were. Did you feel that they pushed you in any direction that you didn't really want to go, or were you pretty comfortable with what they were suggesting as editorial comments?
I was
Or
pretty
was it a
comfortable with them because, when you're a new writer, you don't know much of anything, and you're just looking at your specific part of it, your little slice of the pie. If they tell you that, well, the character's great, but why is she doing this, or what's her motivation here? And then you have to look at it. Now, if I sort of look at it and I decide that no, you're wrong, I have it the way I want it. I've had those conversations. But you have to sort of stick true to what your characters are and who they are and what they're saying and what motivates them, what your story's about, what you want to say in your story. It's not just her case, it's her entire world, her entire perspective and worldview. So you have to sort of weigh how much you're going to give up, how much you're going to stick to, how important it is to you to stick to it. And you have to make those decisions as they sort of come up. I've been pretty lucky so far that the people I'm dealing with, the editors, the agents and stuff like that, they sort of get what I'm trying to say. They get the character, they get the setting, Chicago, they know it's gritty, they know it's urban. And so they sort of give me a certain amount of leeway there.
Yeah, okay. That makes a lot of sense. So you feel that you feel that you stayed really pretty true to everything that you wanted to do.
I think so, yeah. I think I've stayed pretty close to what Cass is or who she's told me she is. And I'm pretty satisfied with the way the books have turned out.
Great, great. I'm going to throw this in because someone just put a question in, which is, how did you decide how vulnerable you would make Cass? Did she become more or less tough over time?
She's become less tough. I think as she sort of come up to these obstacles, these losses, that sort of chips a little away at her. So she's a less vulnerable. She's more vulnerable in book 1, more so in book 2 and 3, because now she's learning. She's sort of raw at certain places, and she's got to learn how to deal with those raw spots. Her normal thing would be to just keep it moving, not think too much about it. But there are things that are coming that she has to sort of stop and sort of pay attention to. And I don't think she's emotionally equipped in a lot of respects to sort of really dig deep about that, but she's going to have to. So I like to keep her sort of raw and vulnerable and sort of off kilter just a little bit. She's professionally right on her game. She knows what she's doing. She knows how to catch bad guys. She knows how to run a case. It's the personal stuff. It's the trust issues. It's the fact that she does not like a lot of change that she has to sort of wrestle with from book to book to book. So I think that's really interesting about her, that she's not perfect. She's not a superhero. She's a flawed human being like we all are. And it's kind of fun for the writer, me, to sort of dig at those flaws and those sort of vulnerable places, and those were places where she doesn't know how to react, how to deal with it. So I kind of like that more about her than the other stuff, than the kick-ass part.
And she's a daughter, she's a landlord, she's got all these pieces of her. She's an ex-cop, she's a PI. Does her experience as a Black woman do you think affect the way she reacts to things or the way things react to her?
I think as a Black woman, she sort of sees things differently from a different perspective. She was sort of a part of this police department wide organization, and she's a small cog in that wheel. But she saw things differently. She sees the people in the neighborhoods, the people on the south side where she came from, the little guy in the west side, the person who sort of didn't get all of those breaks that they probably should have gotten and are sort of getting ignored by the big bureaucracies. That's her niche. People come to her because they need help, and she is there to offer that assistance. She has a soft spot for people who have sort of gotten those bad breaks. She understands how the bureaucracies sort of grind those wheels, and sort of the little people sort of get lost in there. So that's her base. Those are the people she wants to help. The elderly, vulnerable children in the last book, those people. So yeah, that's who she is. She might not see the world like Robert B. Parker Spencer might see it. Different cities, different genders, different worldviews. She's got her little sweet spot there.
How did she end up? Why did she? I don't know if this was in the first book and I missed it because I don't remember how she ended up in the police department in the first place. What was the impetus that actually drove her to join the police force?
Well, I described the fact that she's a college graduate, but then after college, she didn't know what she wanted to do. So she joined the Peace Corps. So 2 years digging wells and helping people out in Africa. She did that. And then when she came back, she saw the need. She came back to the South Side where she originated from, and she saw these people, her people who didn't get those breaks as I talked about. So she wanted to do something about that. That's why she joined the police department. And then she sort of left that and transitioned from there after something sort of really tragic happens in book one. And that sort of put her on a different path. And that's where she is now. She's on that path, working solo. She's a sole operator of her own PI agency. And these are her people. This is her part of the town. This is what she's going to do. And she is like the Energizer Bunny. She will go to the ends of the world on a clue. She just keeps going.
Yeah, you had that quote in there. I take the job, I do the job. And
Yeah, right. That's
that
what
seems
she does.
very, that's it, man. She just keeps moving.
Yep.
Yeah. How did you choose your victims? If you want to call them victims.
Well, you know what? I'm what they call a pantser, so I don't know who usually who the victim is until I actually start actively writing. How do I choose them? I sort of go with what works best. I'm looking for the biggest conflict, the biggest tension, the biggest bang for my buck. So if I have started writing and think I know who the victim is, and have that sort of totally change as I sort of get my fingers in there and sort of mold the clay a little bit. So I sort of start out with an idea of who it might be, but that changes. It could change on a whim. So it depends. Whoever I can get the best scene out of killing, that's who I choose.
Well, at the beginning of book one, that whole thing in the church is like, that is so raw and so personal and so honest, and that it is just it hurt. It really did.
It hurt me too.
Yeah, I'll bet it did.
For a mystery writer, hating killing people, I don't like killing people. I don't like sort of having dead bodies all over the place, but I need them. So I have to kill somebody. I just have to suck it up and hold my nose and do it.
I want to know if you could talk about, this is sort of just going off topic completely, but when I was looking at the people that you said influenced you, one of them you said was Chester Himes, right? Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about him? Because I was not aware of him, and I think a lot of people aren't aware of him as an author. I mean, so many, older books get lost, people don't know who they are, and I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about him.
Well, he was a really one of our first African-American mystery writers, and he sort of concentrated in New York and like I do, sort of really looked with a telescope at the human experience as it applied to African Americans around that 1930s, 1940s period, what their lives were like, how they sort of related to police and bureaucracies and cities, their neighborhoods, what they had to sort of deal with. So um, when I sort of started writing my things, I wanted that community focus. I wanted that foundation. Um, that's what he wrote. He wrote about Black folks in a time of turmoil in the relationship to a mystery, PI novel, detective fiction. So I think that's what the best really mysteries sort of do. Give you the case, give you the mystery, but also give you a little bit about the people they affect, how crime affects communities and people and families. What's the aftermath of a shooting or a knifing or whatever? All right. You don't just get the fact that this dead body shows up on the bridge or whatever. How does that affect the people who are related to that person? So it's all of that sort of complexity that Himes worked really well into his novels, and writers have continued to sort of do through the decades. So we do that now as well. When the first wave of female crime writers started in the 80s with Grafton and Paretsky and writers like that, we had a fuller detective. It wasn't just a sort of a Sam Spade where we knew the case, you worked the bridge and the warehouse and whatever like that. These people, these women had lives. They were sisters or family or whatever. They had husbands and lovers and bills to pay and apartments to clean. They had an entirely full life. So I think that's what Himes sort of started. That's what writers have sort of continued to do in terms of crime fiction, giving that full evolution of what a human life might be, but then have your job be, you know, chasing killers around the city.
Yeah. A couple of questions that showed up in chat. One you actually kind of answered already, but let me throw it out again just in case you want to give anything else on it. Did an editor try to change something that you believed was necessary? I think you already answered that, but if you would like, just like really, really necessary.
Um, Not really, really necessary. No. They might have had questions about why she did this as opposed to something else, because, well, in her community, in her Black community, there are things that they do differently than other people might. So it's just a matter of sort of explaining that culturally. But no, I didn't have to change anything significant about her. She is who she is. She's a bit of a bulldozer, even for me.
She is.
Cass will do what Cass will do, and have to sort of follow and sort of hope she doesn't hurt me.
I love that. I love that when she went down to that, well, I don't remember what the name of the town was, that little town in the middle of Illinois in book 4. Oh my God, that was so great. That was so great.
I did a lot of I did some research about downstate because usually Chicagoans don't sort of venture that far down. I mean, it was sort of like a fish out of water sort of a thing, and I just sort of played with it, and it's probably one of my favorite scenes to sort of put her in a place where she has absolutely no business being, and then just see what she does.
That was so great. Do you have an actual Detective Faraday in your life, or is he just a made-up character?
He is just a made up character. And in the first book, I thought really that I had gone too far. But when I sort of talked to detectives, because I wanted that foundation, I wanted to know what the job entailed, how they sort of came upon it, why they chose it, what they find fascinating about it or committed about it. So I asked a couple of female detectives, have you ever worked with somebody like this character? And they said, absolutely yes. In fact, more than one. And so I felt confident that I had done okay with it. Didn't want it to be a sort of a caricature or something that I had sort of exaggerated beyond belief. I was glad to know that I sort of hit it on the head there. So unfortunately, there are Faradays out there. Just watch your back. And
yeah. And do you think he was so against Cass because she was female? Because you said female detectives versus, or do you think he was just like that to everybody? Because I thought he was just a jerk to everybody personally, but I might be wrong.
Faraday is a jerk to everybody because he is sort of entitled, right? He's got the family in the department, lieutenants, captains. So he's got this sort of feeling of entitlement, that he's better than the other detectives in his team, and he should be the one who sort of plays the cards and makes the decisions. And when she sort of pulls him up short on the way to that rooftop, that sort of sets that conflict off. Now he's feeling, well, who gave you the right to tell me what to do? In sort of in a bad way, but that sort of sets that tension and that central conflict, and that puts them on opposite sides of a very tall fence. And she's going to have to deal with that. Faraday comes back at a certain point, and she has to sort of deal with that.
And there was a bad cop an ex-cop in book 4 too. He had so I think that's really great that you're able to point out that everybody's not like, it's not all sunshine and roses. It's,
No, there's some serious politics going on and tensions, and
yeah.
there's some stuff going on there.
Okay, this was in chat also. The privatization of services for children who need protective services is disturbing. And how did you discover this practice? And that is a question actually I had no idea. This is from Stacy. She also had no idea. We talked about this, and so that was a really fascinating plot point for me, because that was totally out of any realm of possibility for me.
Well, when I started Runner, I had to do a little bit of research. I don't like to do a lot of it because it's too much like math, and writers hate math. But I wanted to know exactly how foster children are sort of run through the system. Not just DCFS here in the city here, but also what other resources were out there. And I sort of stumbled upon the fact that there are these private organizations that sort of piggyback off of the state services. So this institution or this place that sort of put this character in a foster home, they do exist. And my question as a writer then, if I find out that this is the case, this is what happens. The first question I ask myself before I start writing is, what if this happened? Or what if somebody perverted this process? What would happen? And that sort of starts the story off for me, at least. So I wanted to know that, well, this is how it's supposed to work. This is how they expect it to work. But what if somebody did this? And what if this happened as opposed to what should have happened? And that's how that story started. A little research, figuring out how it's supposed to work, how it doesn't, how it fails some, how some sort of fall through the cracks of even the best intentions, and then what would happen if that other thing happened.
Yeah, that was really strange and creepy. And someone wants to know if that's the Maltese Falcon behind you.
Actually, I bought one. I got the other for Christmas in December. So I don't know what they were thinking. But now I have like twin Maltese Falcons. Sam Spain can bite it. I've got two.
Someone has said they live downstate, so I don't know whether they think your depiction was realistic or not.
I don't know. They have to tell me.
I did a little research.
As I said, found a nice little town that I sort of based this town on. Found out how many people live there, what population, what they did in terms of farming or what they grew, and then I sort of drove Cass down there and let her do whatever she thought she needed to do.
If they want to put that in, who is that, Catherine? If you want to put that in chat so we know the answer, that would be great. But in the meantime, Cass has this family she's built. She's basically built a family, right? Okay, I really, really love Barb, but I think that might just be because I think the love bus is just so cool. And I was so excited about that. And you said, do you want to just talk about her family a little bit about, I know that some of these are people that she grew up with, but other people have been sort of pulled into that sphere. And do you want to discuss that a little bit?
Well, yeah, she had sort of a problematic childhood. Mother died when she was 12. Father left her with her grandparents. And she sort of buddied up with Barb, who's the youngest of 9, I think I said, and Whip, who had sort of a problematic childhood too. So these 3 buddies buddied up together. Cass went off and Peace Corps, police department, Whip sort of fell into a life of crime, in prison and out. Barb became a nun, sort of an automatic thing for her. We're a Roman Catholic family, but she became sort of a sassy nun that came back together, and the gang got together, and that's her core family. The loss that she suffered in book one would have been sort of the head of that little group, but this is who she has. These are her people. Her father, we sort of find out, comes back, and now she has again a conflict and a choice to make. Does she throw her arms out wide and say, welcome back, it's been 23 years, what's new with you? Or does she sort of harbor these resentments? I mean, you have just abandoned a child. That child is not going to sort of get over that very quickly or easily. So she's got the tension with her father. She's got her core family. And then she's built upon that, and she's got the waitress at the diner, who's sort of a pseudo mother there. Now she's lost her father, so to speak, but she's found sort of a new sort of leader, or not leader, but mentor in book four, that may or may not become something. I think it might. But yeah, she's had to create a family of her own. A lot of people have to do that when their others fall away. And that's Cass's core. She will protect it to the end. And in fact, the book four ends with her having a decision to make. One of her family has made a decision that she's not completely comfortable with. And she has a choice to make, whether she lets him do what he has to do on his own, or whether she protects that nuclear family that she's created for herself and barrel in and try to help and try to save, which is probably her nature to do. So we'll have to find out what happens, what choice she makes.
Will we find out? That's a question, because is there going to be another?
You will find out when I will find out, because I have absolutely no idea. I sort of left it as sort of a cliffhanger ending. And I have time to sort of figure out what happens from that point on. And I do expect there to be other Cass books, but I've got like two coming before that. So one or two, and then hopefully I'll get back to Cass and figure out what she's going to do.
Okay. I wondered if you were done. That was one question. Are you done at the four? Is that it? So it
I don't
sounds
think
like
so. There should be another one, or hopefully more. I kind of like that character. I could sort of like to stick with her if I could.
she's a great character. She's really good. Catherine from downstate says she'll let you know on Facebook when she gets to book four whether you did a good job.
Let me know if I nailed it.
That's right. So as a segue, you just talked about the two books that are coming up. It was supposed to be a standalone initially, right?
It was.
Not. So
No.
I don't know how much you want to reveal about that, but if you could reveal as much as you'd like.
Well, this new character from Chicago, still my city, but it's Harriet Foster. She's a detective, a homicide detective with the Chicago Police Department. Coming off of a sort of a weird time for her, and she's comes back to work after 2 months off, and she's has a serial killer on her agenda. They are finding bodies hidden under places on the Riverwalk, under the Michigan Avenue Bridge, under a dumpster. The title of the book is called Hide, because the killer is hiding things, and she has to find out who's killing these women. She's got a team with her. She's not working solo like Cass does. And it's a combination of her working the case and also dealing with her personal issues, which is always a good combination to sort of play around with for a writer. And I have great hopes for it. I hope it turns out well. So far, so good. But I have a couple of rounds of revisions still to go, so we'll see.
And okay, so this one is 2. Do you think there's going to be more in that series too, or is it sort of depending how things go? Or
yes, exactly. So
yes,
you never know until you know. They might end it at 2. They might ask for another 2 or 4. It's up to them. So hopefully it'll do well enough for them to sort of want to continue it. But we'll have to wait and see.
Do you feel like that's a tough thing for you to do? Like say, okay, I really love this character and I would like to give you 17 more novels about this character. They're going, we're good with
wait a minute.
thanks,
Right. That goes back to the thing that it's business. So, the writer can only do so much. You can write the books, you can do your best with them, and they go nowhere. So you have to sort of just go with the flow. You don't want to sort of tense yourself out and say, oh, I've got 17 more books in me. Why don't they want to take 17? You just have to sort of go with what you've got. Write the best book you can, hope for the best for it, and then see what the business says. You've got your agent and your editor there to sort of clue you in as to how well you're doing. But other than that, my concentration and most writers' concentration should be on the page. You're on the story, the character, and the book, and the rest of it you have to sort of bless up to God and hope for the best.
Would you consider yours to be like hard-boiled mysteries, most of them, sort of, or would you put it into a different mystery genre?
I would sort of make it sort of soft-boiled. It's not hard-boiled. It's sort of not Sam Spade, or it's not really that sort of tough, down by the dock sort of a character. She's got a life. She's got people. She's got an apartment building to take care of. She does her grocery shopping and shovels her car out in the winter. She's got a full life going on. So it's not hard-boiled. It's hard-boiled-ish, but it's sort of soft and sort of more human.
Yeah, that's a really good description. I want to go back to Cass for a sec. You said, one interview that I heard you talk about or read was you said Pouch was one of your favorite characters.
I love Pouch. I love Pouch.
Do you want to talk about Pouch?
Well, he's 4'2". He dresses all in one color monochromatically. He's a pickpocket. Lovely. I mean, he's exasperating for Cass. She has to sort of watch her stuff whenever he's in her apartment. But he's wonderful. And he just sort of came on the page as I was writing. I didn't sort of find him, work him out or outline him or anything. He just sort of popped up. He came in the door with Whip, and I didn't expect him to sort of last more than one book. And he's back every time. I love him. He's just wonderful.
There's that one part where he took, I don't know what it was he took. I don't even remember, but he took something that she really needed when somebody was in her apartment. And he said to her, I can't turn it off. I just can't turn it off.
No, he stole the remote to her television. And then most of us know that once you lose that remote, your television's dead in the water. I mean, she's dead. So she sits down on her sofa, ready to watch television, and the remote's gone. She knows who took it because he was just there. So now she runs out of her apartment, catches him in the snow, frisks him like she was still in the police department, gets her remote back. But halfway through the frisk, she's sort of feeling sorry for him because, she knows he can't help it. She knows he's sort of working on whatever his problem is, but it's just the fact that here's this bird under her saddle that she sort of likes, but it's exasperating as heck.
He is. I can understand why she's exasperated, but he is funny. Okay. Someone says for the title of the first book, Broken Places, why did you pick that as the title?
Well, there's a quote by Hemingway, I think it is, but that's written in the front of the book, that the world sort of breaks us in weird places, but you get stronger at the places that are broken or something like that. So that's the title is based on that quote. And it sort of fits her journey, what she's been through in her childhood, what she's going through now. She is up against some pretty important stuff, and she sort of either is going to rise or fall, depending on how she sort of goes through it. So those broken places in her, the losses, the having to sort of rebuild herself, her family, her life, she's stronger in that regard, but then there's still those broken places. So I think that's really sort of the basis of this character and the books and the theme that sort of runs through each one of them. I don't change her too much drastically from book to book, but she learns something different about herself and her experience as each book. She becomes a little bit more open, a little bit more trustworthy, a little bit more, interrelational sort of with the people around her. She has to give a little. She has to open up a little. She has to give more of herself to get something back. So those are lessons that she's had to learn and is continuing to learn.
And she's just really basically she is a very decent person. I felt, she wants things to be right. She sees like this rightness in the world that she wants to solve and wants to make happen. And I really appreciated that about her. So, Let me see what else we have here. Hold on. I didn't get other question. Did you, this Melissa said, don't ask this question. People hate it when you ask this question. Anybody modeled after a character in real life?
Yeah, kind of. Her her neighbor, the old woman who lives on the first floor, that's sort of slightly based on my parts of my grandmother and parts of my mother. Not completely. And if you asked either one of them, they would probably, oh, it's not me at all. But certain parts of her are her straightforwardness, the fact that she cares a great deal for Cass, that she sort of cares for her, make sure, monitors her to make sure she's eating, make sure she's safe and doing things the right way. So yeah, that's one character that is sort of based on somebody. The rest of them just sort of popped up as I need them, and I hope they don't go away.
Yeah, okay, that's very good. Let me see what else I've got here. If I have anything else. Anybody have anything that they want to throw out? Because we've talked about a lot of what I had as questions. So I'm waiting to see if anyone does anything. And if not, I'm going to throw out. Okay, I have 2 books out myself. I have 2 novels, and I know how hard it is to write them.
Oh yeah.
And I know how discouraged you get when you keep getting rejections.
Mhm.
So, and you did address this a little bit, but for people that are out there that are writing, is there anything you would like to throw out there for them? Like, maybe, I mean, you can tell them I only write on a laptop, or you can tell them I only write in a notebook on longhand, or you can tell them, I have to stand on my head in the park to do this. But
Well, you know what? You just have to be determined. You just have to keep going because it's really is debilitating to sort of get those rejection letters and know that you sort of got halfway there but didn't get completely there and have to start again or keep going. But you just sort of have to keep yourself motivated. You have to believe that your work is valid, the book that you are writing is good, and you have to do everything you can do within your power to make it good. If you have to learn something, go learn it. If there's a blind spot in the craft that you need to learn, go learn it. But you have to sort of do the work. You have to be there, butt in the seat, eyes on the laptop or the paper or whatever, and you have to sort of commit to it, and you have to stick with it. If you can get turned away by a rejection letter or 5 or 10 or even 15, this might not be the profession for you because you have to really stick in there. If I had given up 15 years ago, I wouldn't be here.
right.
I would be onto something else, and I would have missed my shot when my shot came along. And you have to be there when it comes. If it takes 20 years or 15 or whatever, you have to put in the work, you have to learn what you need to learn, and you have to keep going.
Yeah, and
That's the advice that I was given way back when I was a baby writer. And that's the advice that I would give to writers today. Just keep going. I sort of envision in my head this sort of Game of Thrones back and forth. The Lannisters are trying to kill me, and I'm a Stark, and I'm gonna make sure that I win. So it's a battle, and you have to sort of be in there to fight it.
I think that's really good advice. I think that's great. This is more about writing, but then there's another, this is more about the books, but then there's another writing question. So when you were interviewing police officers, did anything they say surprise you?
Yes, I interviewed mostly female detectives, homicide detectives, because that's Cass's background. She's a ex-homicide detective, so I needed to know what they knew, why they joined the force, what they got out of it, how they did their job that was different from the way that men did it, because there's a difference. Most females are not as tall or big or burly as the men are, and they have to find alternative ways to sort of de-escalate situations. So these detectives sort of used more psychology than brute force. They're going to talk to you and try to calm you down and sort of find a way to sort of get you to comply without throwing you against the floor, putting the cuffs on you and dragging you into a police car. All right. They have to sort of talk to you eye to eye, face to face, and calm you down because they cannot fight you. Or if they sort of encounter somebody who's unruly, but the first thing they're going to do to protect themselves is probably take their guns out and shoot you. All right, so they don't want to do that. So they're going to have to calm the situation down and bring it down way down so they don't have to fight you. That was the main thing that I got from them. They don't want to hurt people. Okay, they are out there doing a job. They want to go home just as much as you want to go home, and they want to put you in a safe place, de-escalate this situation, and get this, off the street, safe and sound, whatever. I also learned that these women are committed. They are not just in there for because it's a job with benefits. They want to do what Cass wants to do, make things right, make the streets safe, make sure that children can walk unmolested from point A to point B. That's their motivation. It's tough. It's a tough job. I wouldn't take it on a bet. But these people are professionals and they're trying to do the right thing. I also asked them, well, what do you do with your gun when you're not using it? Because I had no idea. I've never held a gun in my life. The research I've done for these books has been sort of a esoteric sort of a thing. What kind of gun would she possibly carry? What would be too heavy for her? So I asked them, what do you do with your gun when you're not at your house, when you're at somebody else's house, like overnight or something? And they told me, one woman sort of sleeps with her gun with the hilt sort of pointed outward. So if she has to do something in the middle of the night, all she has to do is reach down under the mattress. There the gun is, and you're toast. So those little things, those little actions, those little movements, I wanted to know to sort of infuse into this character, whether or not I used it. I might use it at a later point. I might have never use it, but just knowing that that's what they're thinking about. When I interviewed a couple of these detectives, we met at a restaurant, and I noticed that these women came to the table. There were 4 chairs there. They sat in the ones facing the door. Okay, I would never have thought that that would be a thing that they would need to do, but that's what they do. They're not going to sit with their backs to the door. Anybody could come in, they wouldn't see them. Somebody could come up on them and take their gun out of their hook. They could do a million things. But that was a nice little detail, a nice little point that I sort of use in the books. And Cass, as you'll notice, never will sit with her back to the door. She's got her little booth in the diner. It's way in the back because she can see the entire restaurant from where she's sitting, and that's her spot. So I would never have had that detail if I had not talked to people who actually do the work. So interesting things.
Yeah. And then Stacy is saying Cass has, she says, I read a lot of mysteries, and Cass is one of my all-time favorite detectives with her deep sense of empathy, but at the same time, she has the awareness that just because she empathizes with someone, hold on, my thing is jumping all over, you have to accept bad behavior. And can you speak to that aspect? And I think you almost sort of did in a way when talking about Pouch, you just have to accept that there's bad behavior coming along. But can you say anything else?
I think she sort of knows that human beings are all different. They all have their hangups and their kinks and whatever. That's why she is sort of mad at Pouch, but not completely, because she knows that he cannot help it. In fact, he sort of saves her hash in the 4th book a little bit. So she's got a new appreciation for him at this point. But she sort of accepts people as she finds them, except for the bad guys. That she doesn't understand at all. There's a detective in their 4th book that she has an animosity for good reason. That's not somebody that she's going to go and have a beer with. This is a guy that she has absolutely no interest in at all. They are on totally different wavelengths, totally different viewpoint. This is a bad guy. She has no quarter for a bad guy. So she emphasizes, but also she knows that this is the line that she will not cross. So that's Cass. She sees you. She sees what you're doing. She might emphasize with you, but no, that's it.
I love the fact, another question, that you made Pop and Barb real people, even though they are career religious people who Cass probably wouldn't be drawn to if she'd met them in her adult life. True?
That's probably true. Pop sort of saved her at a sort of a critical point, and it sort of drew her into religion, not religion, but because she doesn't go to church, but the feeling that it's all sort of has a plan, goodness will out. You have to accept people as they are. You have to sort of do the best you can. So she sort of has that foundation. Barb is just Barb. Barb wasn't always a nun. She was her running buddy in the old neighborhood. She just happened to sort of choose religious life as opposed to anything else. So she's looking at her not so much as a nun, but as Barb, her friend Barb, her best friend, her pal, her running buddy. Um, but even saying that, Barb sort of sticks in and gives that sort of education or that guidance that Pop would have given her if he were still here. So she gets a little bit from that from Barb, also from Sister Marion and the Love Bus. That's a new influence for her. So she's got that sort of foundation, and what she does with it, we have to see.
Is the Love Bus? I know that from the high school here, and we're right outside of Chicago suburbs, they used to go over and work with, I don't know if it was Salvation Army, who it was. They would do like sandwich deliveries, in the evenings. They would sometimes take the kids over and just walk through homeless enclaves and pass out food and, bagged lunches, basically. So is there a Love Bus that I've never heard of that? Is there
I don't
something like?
know. I sort of made it up. I don't know if there is. There should be. I would think that there would be. There probably are. But yeah, I sort of needed something that sort of kept tabs on these children who are out on the street, the ones that are sort of fell through those cracks we talked about. What resources do they have? What could help them sort of stay safe until they sort of gotten to a place where help can be had? Sometimes all you can give is a blanket or a sandwich,
Yeah.
or that's all they'll accept. So I wanted to sort of put that in there to sort of show that there were stopgap things that sort of could take place and may take place in other places. I'm not sure if there are in Chicago, but these are the kids that need to be helped. This might help. This is what helps in this story, and hope for the best. I mean, I think we really sort of need to sort of tackle this issue.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I thought it was great. You're involved with other writers in several organizations. Someone wants to know how helpful that is.
Well, it's very helpful. I mean, writing is a sort of solitary thing. It's just you and your writing desk, and it's kind of lonely in there. The writing community is vast. You will learn when you join organizations like Mystery Writers of America and Sisters in Crime that other writers are in the same boat that you're in. So these are your people. These are the people who love books as much as you do. These are the people who climb that book mountain every book and run into the same problems that you face when you're writing yours. These are the people who will offer them support and advice, direction. You might have a problem with a pacing or dialogue or whatever. Another writer might have the answer for you. So it's education, it's camaraderie, it's a community, and it's all good. I think I would advise every writer, new or otherwise, to sort of tap into these organizations and find your group. We're there. Everybody's commiserating and patting each other on the back and kicking each other in the pants when they need it. That's your people. These are your people. This is your community. And I would say jump in with both feet.
And someone wants to know, because they've only read book one, about Eli and Cass and how that relationship progresses without giving any spoiler alerts. No spoiler alerts.
Difficult. Let's just say that everything Cass does on a personal level is not going to go easy because she doesn't operate on that level usually. She's a workhorse. When she gets that case is her focus. And having somebody there who she has to sort of deal with is not going to be an easy thing. It's on again, off again slightly, and then he has to sort of fight her and try to chase her and try to figure out how he's going to have a relationship on somebody who's not really interested in having much of one. So I kind of like that back and forth, that tug and pull, and we'll see what happens with it.
Yeah,
it's not going to be easy. There's not going to be like a honeymoon section where they get married or go to Vegas and elope. That's not going to
happen. Someone says, I read the short story in the collection Shades of Black. Mm-hmm. And how did you become involved in that project?
Well, Eleanor Taylor Bland, I met her. There used to be a conference every year, I think, called Dark and Stormy Nights, that was hosted by Mystery Writers of America. And as a college kid, I would schlep up there to the North Shore every Saturday from 9 to 5, panels and workshops on dialogue and pacing and character development. And I met Eleanor there. Um, they gave an option of having your manuscript critiqued by a published writer. She was the one I was sort of teamed with. And she encouraged me and saw what I wrote and said, I like this. I think it's good. Send me the rest of it. And that started a relationship that lasted more than 20 years, of her sort of ushering me through this process of writing a novel, making it good, revising it, um, shaping it up and making it a complete story. So I met her. She mentored me. Mentorship turned into a friendship. That friendship sort of got me to the next level. And I wouldn't be here probably without her. And, yeah, it's just sort of, that's how it happened. It was a fluky sort of a thing, but I, bless it every day. And that's what writers sort of need. They need that you only need one person to believe in what you're doing. It has to be you, but it has to be the next person who sort of ushers you, takes you by the hand, and moves you to the next spot. And if you're lucky to find that, stick with it. And if you can be that for somebody else, absolutely do it. And that's how you get along.
And do you think you would switch genres? Do you think you would go out? I don't think you're going to write a romance anytime soon.
I don't think so. I mean, somebody's going to die in a romance. I mean, no, I don't know. I kind of like crime fiction. I don't know why. I don't know why that's my sweet spot. But from those Nancy Drew days all the way through Agatha Christie and all the rest of them, I think crime is my thing. I don't think I would ever write anything else. I would hope that could sort of write the perfect crime novel, but that's probably out of my grasp. Nothing's perfect. But I want to write a really solid crime novel. That's my goal. That's what I'm working for. I'm almost there. But yeah, I think crime and dead bodies are my thing.
Yeah, it's a good answer. Okay, here's my sort of last question, unless somebody else throws something out. Because your settings they're really vivid. I mean, you really feel like you're there. That's in book 4, when they were in the Sunbeam Factory. Oh, yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
So do you have favorite places in Chicago that you just love? Personally.
I like alleys, dark alleys, paint peeling. I like really dark viaducts. I've got a really nice drain pipe about 103rd Street off of the highway there, about big enough for a body to be stuffed in. Every time I go to the cable company, I sort of pass by that drain pipe and imagine what might be in there. So that might show up in a future book. But I like sort of dark, gritty, sort of shady areas. That sort of brings out the really interesting ideas for me. Nothing good happens at the Bean. I mean, it's everybody goes there. It's a tourist trap. I mean, no, I really like something really dark and gritty and dirty. If there's a rat in there, that's even better. Just something sort of gnarly. I like gnarly.
That's great. Yeah, because I was going to say, so you're not doing Millennium Park anytime soon.
No. Unless somebody's on top of the Bean, and then you have to worry how they got up there. That might be interesting. I might.
That'd be really interesting. Yeah.
Other than that, no.
Okay. All right. Do we have anything else that you would like to ask before we let Tracy go? Because this has been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Hey, can I ask something? I feel like it's too much to type. One of my librarian friends from my old library, actually, I worked at Warren Newport in Gurnee, and Eleanor Taylor Bland was a writer in residence for us. And she became good friends with my colleague. And so I asked my colleague, because we were still in touch, do you remember anything about Eleanor Taylor Bland that you think is kind of unique or interesting about her writing process? Because I was reading about how much you liked her work. Mm-hmm. And Debbie said that Eleanor told her she used to, when she would drive back and forth from work, she would be very aware of everything around her, all of the sounds and the time of day and what was happening at those times of day, to put those details into her books to make it that much more real. is that something that you do because your scenes are really, really poignant and very almost tactile, I feel like when I write them or when I read them. So do you feel like that's something you do too in your process?
I actually do, because you kind of have to. I mean, you have to sort of know what something smells like, not only looks like, but you have to sort of smell it. On a place you might pick for a setting, if you see it in the daytime, it might look totally different at night. What happens? What kind of people are walking on the street at 12 o'clock and at midnight? Totally different thing, probably. But you have to sort of know that. You have to see what it looks like, smell it. Feel it. If it's got a vibe, we have to feel that too. So I do a little bit about that, do a little bit of that. And I think it sort of adds to whatever you're writing. The more you know, the more you can sort of put into your brain and sort of feel, the better off your writing will be. You have to have that sort of hands-on sort of a thing. You have to know it to write about it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Nicole has said thank you. She enjoyed the first book, and she particularly enjoyed the details and the character development in there.
Thank you, Nicole.
And Melissa is, I think it's, yeah, she says, okay, dead drain pipe and rats all over the bean. I don't know. You might be able to use that.
I think I can make that work.
Yeah, feel free. Well, thank you, Tracy. Thank you so much. This was great.
Thanks so much for
Really
having me.
enjoyed meeting you, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank
And
you.
I'm going to go ahead and log us off. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, wait, there's something else in here. There's a thank you, but there's someone, someone's saying that Jasmine Gilroy is going to be at the library doing a chat sort of a thing. It's basically sponsored by a large consortium, so it won't be quite as personal as this, but the website has the details on that if you're interested. And everyone else says thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for
Let me
coming.
check there. Okay, that was it. Thank you, Tracy. All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.